G'day, welcome to Realms of Power. My name's Dr. Tony Rudd and I'm the host of this show. The purpose of Realms of Power is to turn your true aligned power on, or turn your tap on, as we like to say. We broke this down into 12 different realms in our very first episode, and we've had a whole lot of guests come on the show to help with their specific area that might help you turn your power on. Now, this is designed for people that might be stuck somewhere, down on their power, low on energy, or just want to live their most unbelievable, magnificent life. So my background is a chiropractor for 25 years, helping people turn their power on through alignment and optimizing of their nervous system. I've seen such phenomenal change. I've also been a life coach in the personal development field for almost 20 years, helping people physically, chemically, emotionally, spiritually, all the different realms. And it's been an honor to be able to help so many people. That's why we've done this podcast. Now, if you'd like to find out more, I have a personal website on www.tonyrudd.com.au, and we have a Facebook page for Realms of Power to access all the episodes. They're available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all of the different platforms as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have an awesome day. See ya. G'day, Dr. Tony here with the Realms of Power podcast. Been so anticipatory, excited about the guest we've got today. Great friend Don Horsfall. Don, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate you spending the time with me today.
Oh, mate, it's an absolute honor. And I've met Don many years ago. It's probably 18 years ago we first met on a workshop. And I've been inspired by so many of the things you've done in power that's influenced my life in a positive way, especially in regards to leadership, talking about ego, talking about working together in a volunteer team. And I've just been inspired by also observing how many people you have helped, whether that's one-on-one or in a workshop or outside a workshop, just from your heart. You're just a gentleman, and it's so great to have you here. So yeah, once again, thanks for coming. Yeah, would you like to share just a little about your history and why you feel you've got something to offer the listeners in turning their true aligned power on?
Thanks, Tony. I feel very humbled by those comments, I must say. I guess it's worthwhile just doing a quick précis of why I became so vested in human development in the first place. And it started with a cheeky young kid that found more connection through humor than anything else. I was quite small in stature as I was growing up, and I found the best way to get into the group was to be the clown, and that was pretty much my way right through school. I didn't do very well at school. In fact, I left at the age of 15. My father famously said to me, "You're wasting my time and my money. Go and get a job." So he knew this chief executive of the Bank of Queensland, and lo and behold, one September morning, I was sitting in a bank filing papers for quite a long time. That was my start in my working life. Next 5 years in the bank, I was on 3 extended probations because I hadn't yet learnt that they don't like clowns in commercial world. And my way of connecting was not always appreciated by the hierarchy of the bank. It was a great little bank at the time, a lot of great people and some lifelong friends made there. But it was interesting, I found a lovely lady and I fell in love, and we got married at the age of 20, bought a house that year at 20. And I decided almost like a switch that I needed to get serious about life. I always had a view that I wanted to do something in helping people or developing people. So I did a diploma in personnel management by correspondence. I got up every morning and I studied for 2 years, and I got that diploma, and the bank management decided to put me into that department. And that's where I really shone. I found that I really loved that work. I could see people growing and developing. I wanted to be a part of that journey with them. So that sort of formulated the spark in me, if you like, that led to doing further study. Eventually, I did an undergraduate in banking and finance, and I ended up doing a postgraduate master's degree in business and banking in human development and human resources. So it set me on a path of 10 years of further education. I wasn't the dumb kid at school after all. It was just that I didn't like schoolwork and didn't find anything that was actually remotely interesting to me. When I did, I realized that I did have an innate intelligence and I could actually learn and be academic if necessary to get what I wanted out of life. So eventually I ended up doing banking as a banker, a core banker, doing work loans and telling and all the sort of things you do in a bank career. And I was the youngest bank manager of the Bank of Queensland at the age of 27. I was appointed to the Gap branch and then eventually Gympie branch. I got to develop teams, and I could use that learned skill that I had and that passion for developing people with my own group that worked for me. And I loved that part of it. It wasn't actually the banking that I loved. It was actually developing the teams that I loved. So it's interesting, I think, for people that think, oh, I don't like the profession I'm in, or I don't like doing this. If you can link it to one of your values in life, and you can really see that it's on the way, not in the way, as Dean Martini, a great mentor of mine, famously says, then you can use that motivation and drive to do the things you love to do. And mine was developing teams. I didn't care much about writing loans. I didn't care much about being a bank manager. I cared about the team that I had. We developed collectively the most successful team in the bank, and there's an award in those days called the Branch of the Month Award. We won 13 consecutive Branch of the Month Awards.
Well, look, so many times I've talked in this podcast about doing the thing you love doing. One of the common themes we've shared, and to hear that it might not even be about the industry, it's about the passion within the industry. Geez, that makes a difference in terms of your power, because I can feel how lit up you get by that. And I've seen, whether it's teams in volunteer organizations, that's just an absolute passion. So can you say more about, the teams and your development moving forward, of what else you've been able to do with that passion?
Well, I became obsessed with leadership because obviously developing teams is about leadership. So I delved deep into that. I ended up doing a graduate diploma of leadership at Monash University in Melbourne, a residential college down there. And they had great speakers from all over the world coming. I was very, very blessed and privileged to be exposed to that level of leadership. The bank put me through that. It was very expensive. I wouldn't be able to do it myself. But they were developing me. And eventually, the 15-year-old that was on 3 extended probations ended up being appointed to the executive committee of the bank. So I was number 8 in a staff of 800.
Yep.
By that stage, after 25 years, it's a long career. But because I was enjoying the development of people along the way, I never felt that I was really a banker. I felt I was doing something else within the bank structure and the organizational structure. But it did lead me to high levels of leadership. And I got to lead the training department of the bank, where I introduced leadership training to people and got to actually go down to the big training department we had and give lectures on leadership and inspire the future leaders of the bank, and watch the bank grow and develop just through the passion of getting other people to learn how to lead and develop their teams.
So can you say more on a summary of that for the listener? Because I think leadership is one of the most important topics in turning your power on. How would you summarize for the listener what they could do to improve their leadership?
It's incredibly complex in some ways because every team is different, and too many leaders follow their own agenda and try and drive it through. The only way to lead successfully is to win the hearts and minds of the people that you're with, to get rid of your ego out of the equation, to discuss as a group where we needed to take the team, and to understand that every one individual in that group, and there could be quite a few of them in different layers, have different drivers in their lives. What are they passionate about? How does what we're trying to achieve as a group link to what they're passionate about? And it may not be that they're passionate about leadership. It may be they're passionate about being the best teller or bank manager or whatever the occupation is that you're trying to lead, whatever the team is. But every one of those individuals has a different key to them that you need to unlock and get them to be the best version of themselves, and align that to the overall goal of the team. Once you've got that, then you can inspire It's about being inspirational in your own actions, being true to the values of the whole team then, and making sure that you're a shining example of that.
I love that. And you said before about ego in a team, in volunteer organizations that I know you've been a part of, and your own business that you started a very successful business as well. Can you say more about the ego that some people bring into leadership or groups or teams, and how the listener here in turning their power on could use some of your wisdom to find that balance?
Yeah, ego is an interesting topic because it's a necessary part of life in driving people to be as good as they can be. That's at a physical life level where you're involved in day-to-day life. If you wanted to go a little bit spiritual on it, I think part of our journey is to try and dissipate the ego and to try to realize that we're all equal and we're all striving to be the best version of ourselves. And the ego can sometimes get in the way. It can be a bit toxic if you're overly dominating from their ego point of view. So as you know, and we met during workshops that we did together, when I was leading those workshops, one of the biggest driver for me was to get the volunteers who had given up their own time to come and help these amazing people that came to heal the wounds they have in life, that those people would leave their ego at the door. And when they came inside the room, we would all just be there with the pure intent of love and healing for the people that would come to those workshops. And even though I was leading the workshop, tried to demonstrate that I wasn't doing it from a point of view of authority. I was doing it from a point of view of inspiration, love, connection, and trying to get the whole team to understand that we're here for a reason, and it's to help these people evolve and grow through their lifelong wounds.
An example of that I can think of is some people in their ego might not realize that when they're doing that and they're saying yes, yes to what you've just brought up, however, they then are looking for an acknowledgement. They're looking for an appreciation, a pat on the back, so that they feel like what they've done is actually being good and acknowledged. Can you see that wound tying in with ego somehow?
Yeah, Tony, it's a great point. In fact, I find the most elevated egos come from the biggest insecurities, and that people that are needy, looking for external validation all the time, are trying to have their egos propped up by others. And it comes from insecurity. I feel for those people. I also try to help them to dissipate that side of their nature, because it's not a great trait for leadership. And people don't like being led by over egotistical people that are authoritarian and that are trying to drive their own agendas. Generally, the higher that goes, that the more extreme that ego is, the more demanding and more suppressive they are of others, because it elevates themselves. They feel elevated by suppressing others. It's not a great trait. It's something that we all need to be aware of, that we all can sometimes do in life, and that we try to mitigate that sort of impact on other people, particularly when you're on even teams.
Mm. So in terms of human dynamics, which again, I know is one of your favorite topics, sometimes in the moment you have to give that person some feedback. And that feedback, if it's coming from that loving place of helping them grow and learn, sometimes pointing out about that ego or that feedback. Can you say more to the listener about how feedback coming from a place of that egoless environment is crucial in stepping their journey of evolutionary leadership?
All good leaders, Tony, need to make some tough decisions sometimes for the greater good. And there's always times when, in the interests of developing leaders that you have responsibility for, you do have to give quite direct feedback. There's ways of giving it that are constructive. Sometimes it can be quite direct. It depends on the person and where they're at in their own development and what they're capable of absorbing in terms of feedback. Some people are very fragile, don't take feedback that well, and there's a way of sort of working with them on a longer time frame to try and generate some sort of growth. Some people, like you, Tane, I could be very direct with feedback. You would take it on board. You wouldn't take it personally, and you would reflect on that and grow through it. And I'm the same. I like people to be direct with feedback to me as well. So it is different for everybody, but It's an absolutely essential part of leadership.
Mm. So let's talk more about the human dynamics. Again, from the workshops we've done together, I know, again, it's one of your absolute passions and it ties in with big project that you've done in the past. Can you say more about what you've learned in terms of human dynamics for the listener to turn their true aligned power on?
Look, I think that's a very broad topic, and I've been following your podcasts avidly. I think it's a great thing you're doing, and I love the guests that you have on. I'm learning something each time, and it's a very, very broad topic. I was very fortunate, if I can just go back a little bit, to when I left the bank after 25 years. I didn't have a job to go to. I left the bank because a new CEO came in and started to destroy the culture that I felt that I was responsible for creating over a long period of time with the previous executive management. And this person came from a big bank outside the little Bank of Queensland that we used to work in. And the whole culture changed. And I was very despondent about that. I started a new business called Conveyancing Works, which was a property conveyancing law firm. And not being a lawyer, I needed to generate business and give it to a law firm to process, which I found a law firm that would do that. But we set about building a team that was so passionate about driving value for customers because we felt the product was overpriced in the market. Now that team became so focused and driven by the results that we were getting that we grew that business to the largest conveyancer in Australia.
Mm.
We ended up with 140 staff. We had different layers of leaders. Now, the reason I developed that business wasn't, believe it or not, for money. I did it because the previous culture that I helped develop, and bearing in mind my number one passion is developing teams, the previous culture was taken away from me. And the role I was as head of HR was taken away from me, and I was put into a management position developing or running branches. I had 26 branches under my control in Queensland. So that destruction of what I believed was so critical and important really affected me. So I decided, well, I'm going to create my own business and no one can ever take this away from me again.
Yep.
When I develop the right culture, I'm never going to get that taken away from me again. So Conveyancing Works became that project, if you like. And what I was driven by every day was developing the people, the teams, the leaders within my team that I had direct control over. And that was the passion of my life. And it happened to coincide with the 10 years I spent in the workshops with you. It was actually almost the same decade that I did that. It was a great period in my life. And in answer to your question, I found that, again, linking the values of why those people are doing what they're doing to the task at hand and to the overall goal of the team, and to grow people through pain that we all suffer in life, through wounds and through relationship breakups and through loss and grief and human dynamics between relationships with staff and each other, that I spent my days working on those things. And that unlocked the whole potential of the team. The power of the team was so much greater as a collective once each individual felt they were, number one, a part of it. Number two, they were getting rid of burdens and they were growing and developing by being a part of it. And I found that we weren't even the best payers in the market, but people wanted to belong to our teams. And we got a reputation for people wanting to come and work there because they worked hard, but they felt that they were part of something bigger. And the workshops were the same, Tony, as you know. We had some, as part of the leadership team, when you and I and some other great men, we had a great success in developing some really good leaders over those years.
Absolutely. I feel honoured to be a part of it and to have met you, and that study you did right back from the bank in the early days has transformed into real life examples of how you've helped people. Like I said, the number of people that come to you even well after the workshops involvement or I'm sure your work involvement just come to you for that wisdom and understanding of the human dynamics, because we're human. We're living in this 3D world and reality, and there's spiritual growth, and we're all at different levels on that path. And your insights to be able to see where that person is on that path is just amazing. Now, I know one of your highest values is freedom. How does freedom tie into all of this for you?
Well, it's important to the extent that I created the business I did to work myself out of a job. As soon as I started business, my first question to myself is, how can I work myself out of a job? A lot of people are vested in doing what they do, and every business is different. It's pretty hard as a chiropractor, for instance, to work yourself out of a job because it's a physical process and it's what you do as a doctor that heals people. But in the businesses I ran, they were scalable businesses where I put management teams in place, and I get to a point where I could only touch those teams once a week for an hour. And I knew that business was humming. And because they developed the leaders in it, and they'd shared my philosophy and my vision and my values and how those teams should be run. And I would go down, they were based in Brisbane, these businesses. I would go down and I would just do a couple of hours a week and just have a couple of meetings with the leadership group and make sure they were still inspired, they were still driving the right values, deal with any major issues that were happening. And then I could go back to my free life where I chose every day when I woke up what I wanted to do with my life. And in many cases, that was more personal growth or, I found a great mentor. I'm sure you know of Dr. John DeMartini, following on from my other personal growth journey. I found a different style of personal growth at a different level, which was more of a level of quantum physics and spirituality and universal laws, which I found absolutely fascinating. So did a lot of work with Dr. John DeMartini, went to America and studied under him as well with my wife, Bron. We had an amazing time doing that. It just helped me to elevate some of my thinking around how to help people move on in life and grow and become more aware.
A lot of people in this life feel stuck if I can look at all the realms of power we've divided them into in terms of their financial freedom or financial power, which ties in with what you're saying, job, work, life. And we've got to live in this world the way it's structured now with financial freedom. Is there something you could share for the listeners again on how to create that financial freedom for them?
Well, I think the fundamental thing people need to grasp is money is just energy. It's just pure energy. So the power of attraction works as much as it does in relationships and communities as it does for money. Developing financial businesses, you can't just open the door and say, I'm going to be like everybody else. You have to decide what it looks like. And I always put myself on the buying side. I put myself in the customer or the patient side and go, what would attract me to choose that one over that one? And I had the benefit of being a bank manager for a long time and seeing and funding many successful businesses. And by the way, many that didn't make it. I learned just as much out of the ones that didn't make it as the ones that did. So great life lessons in what works and what doesn't. But you have to develop a compelling argument for your product or service that has a point of difference. Once you establish the point of difference, you have to find a way to communicate that. And there's an excellence in what you do. You have to almost specialize to the point where there's an excellence in what you do. It's so compelling that people flock to it. As you know, I have a chiropractic business in Brisbane, and one of my chiropractors has a passion for children, the pediatric side, and she's studied all over the world to get postgraduate degrees in this area. And that clinic has become renowned for doing incredible work in that area and get referrals from pediatricians and from lactation specialists and from dentists even for all sorts of things that chiropractic can help with in that realm. But it's just another example of what is your point of difference? How can I communicate it? And how do I evolve that into something that is compelling to patients or clients or whatever?
Yeah, I love that. And I love how lit up you get by each of these topics. Like, well, I know we could talk about each of these topics, humor even, like going back to how do you make this fun? I had a podcast with Justin, and, he's great in his business, completely different business, but his theme was how do you do that and make it fun? Like not just, the serious side of leadership, but you've got to have that laugh and fun along the way. How would you say you've continued to bring that humor in, whether it's the business or any of those things?
It's all linked, because if you are working on the individual and are unlocking their potential and you're removing conflicts that exist, pretty hard to have fun when there's tension in the room. When the people are constantly in conflict with each other. And you'll remember the fun we used to have in the workshops. We had a ball. We just laughed all the time. Why? Because we're all aligned. We valued and respected each other, which is a core value of any business. We had the same goal in mind. And it was, once you remove the tension that exists, humor is a natural product that actually flows. So humorless work environments are generally due to tension that is existing within the community that you're managing. So number one, do what I said before in terms of leadership and get your team on the same page. Get them individually working for what they believe is going to help them and elevate them in their life towards their goals. And I find the natural humor will flow from that. Every business I've ever owned, I've laughed most of the time in helping grow those businesses. And it's such a part. You got to have fun. What's the point?
So good. So good. All right. Look, there's a topic I have to bring up, and I know I'm trying to keep these podcasts. We could talk for ages, I'm sure. But one of the topics is another one of your passions, and God, you've achieved so much in your life, has been your published book. Would you like to share with the listeners the name of your book, what it's about?
I'd love to. This was something that I spent quite a few years writing, and I got to a point, it was actually in one of DeMartini's classes in Texas, and I realized that he operates from such a high level that a lot of people can't just jump into that sort of work. And I went to him one day and I said, look, I was thinking about writing a book to have someone a character that went through the journey of life and all the trials and tribulations, and to raise some of the awareness around the personal growth side of things, which was the work that we did for 10 years, Tony, and then to elevate into more of the universal laws and the spiritual side, if you like. So I wrote a book called The Empyrean Quest, and the Empyrean in Greek mythology is the ultimate source of pure light at the center of all creation. Now, that's a pretty big topic, isn't it?
Yeah, got to take it on.
So that's where the word Empyrean comes from. But it's really a source, if you like. You want to go back that far. If you like, I can just read a little bit out of the preface, which might give people a bigger understanding of what that is.
Oh, that'd be great. And I know that you've got this on audio book as well.
That's true.
And that's you actually reading the whole book. I've loved listening to it. So everyone will get a taste right now if they'd rather read it or listen to Don. So go for it, Don.
So the implication by ancient philosophers in the Empyrean was, by its very suggestion, that we're all on a journey back to the Empyrean, or the source. That's our journey in this life. So do you believe there's a purpose to your life? Is there a reason for all of the experiences that's ultimately helping you on the way to somewhere? Or do you believe that life is just happening to you randomly outside of your sphere of influence? At the end, there is nothing. If you subscribe to the latter, perhaps the adventurous story that follows may be just a wonderful read for those of you who intuitively seek answers in life to life's mysteries. The Empyrean Quest may resonate with something inside of you and awaken a knowing. So what is the underlying purpose of life then? Are you looping around and around doing the same things, stuck in a rut, striving but never arriving? Have you ever wondered what lies just beyond your horizon, or afraid to venture there? How much then do your beliefs restrict your human potential and ultimately your evolution as a soul? The easiest task for mankind is to deceive ourselves. It seems we are ever willing to believe what we wish to be true in order to justify our existence. This is not a new concept. It was attributed to Prometheus 384 BC. What if your life experience is a manifestation of your limited thoughts and perceptions? After all, our history is rich with great achievements, breaking down previously unshakable beliefs. Voyager has just reached the expanded universe that was always out there and just couldn't see it. What if there was an expanded universe for you to explore, hidden in plain sight? We as individuals are often restricted by what we see and believe, enshrined in a mist of deception based on our own perceptions. It's our obsession with what we believe to be unconditional and true that are the boundaries of our world and that keep us confined, blinded to the reality of what there is and has always been just beyond the horizon. Just as the hand held before the eye can hide the tallest mountain, so the routine of everyday life can keep us from seeing the vast radiance and secret wonders that fill the world. Most of us live in a bubble, a dream state, day in, day out, doing the same things, doing life, not living life. We're stuck in animal level behavior, driven by wants and desires and parental reaction. It's superficial and material by nature, chasing the next pleasure and trying to avoid any pain. We are slaves to our ego, which is obsessed with external validation, always measuring ourselves against others. We believe life is happening to us and our existence is dominated by our external influences. We dismiss the ever-present messages of the higher mind and soul that are connected to our true self and the collective wisdom that flows to us. We only reach the edge of our current known existence where real expansion exists when we create trauma or events that shock us out of our comfort zone. These are our own creations, perfectly designed to provide equal challenge and support for the expansion of our soul. When we finally see the hidden order, it's liberating to learn that nothing is good or bad, black or white. The evidence for every aspect of our existence lies in the laws of physics, which demonstrates that everything is always in perfect balance. Like a magnet, we are two perfectly balanced opposing energies that can never be separated. It's only our lopsided perception that creates an imbalance in our emotions and our thinking. Once we are aware that this is a perfect design necessary for our own evolution, we seek the perfection. We see the perfection into life. We understand that all our experiences, which prompt us to feel heightened emotions, are perfectly designed as a guide for our soul. For some, this realization can create sudden and lasting expansion and liberation. Others may not seek to understand why they are unfulfilled, always lopsided, attracting drama in their life. They are destined to repeat the same patterns over and over. As we grow and expand to ever increasing realms of knowing, we see the order of things guiding us to our divine course with an expanded vision. Eventually, we will no longer need to engage in the emotional constraints and games of our conditioning, patterns and beliefs that have kept us stuck, looping around in a restricted world without purpose. We will have an unwavering belief that all is in perfect balance in every situation. The exciting part for all of us is the soul journey has no end. We continue to bump into the edge of our known reality in each new realm of existence, creating new and challenging situations that are for the benefit of our eternal expansion. That is the endless evolution of the spirit and the essence of creation. Many speak of creation as if it were over. Creation is taking place every moment of our lives. Einstein famously said, "Everything is energy, that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of your reality to what you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics." When we can accept that we create every experience in this life, both good and bad, for our eternal soul's expansion, we realize that the problems we attract are on the way, not in the way. What other purpose could there be for your many life challenges but to evolve through experiential learning? I wrote this book, Tony, as a bridge of understanding between our human behavior and emotions and the universal laws that govern our existence for the ultimate benefit of the higher mind and soul. Based on my own learnings and beliefs and philosophies and knowing, my goal has been in writing it to spark a light of inspiration leading to an enhanced ability to challenge perceived limits in people, alleviating unnecessary emotional suffering, and to break free from the mist that surrounds and blinds you to the possibilities of life. So I hope that people that go on this journey discover the perfect balance in all things and the truth that there is in plain sight.
God, that's epic, Don. I think if there was a way that everyone could hear that message, and I say everyone, as in the people that are ready to hear that message, there was a way that that could get out there, I'd be so honored if it's through this podcast, but just by saying it through the ether, writing it in your book, you have sent it out into the world for it to find the people it's needed to find. in their right time. I would love to see your book turned into a major movie epic. I definitely think it has that potential that I would just think that needs to be in the world. But for the listener, this would be the book that I would recommend, The Empyrean Quest by Don Horsfall. It's available, Don. How would you get it?
All avenues through bookstores, Amazon, Kindle, through audio, and all the online providers can either get a paper copy or an ebook or an audiobook.
Oh, magnificent. All right, well, let's wrap up this podcast. And Don, I've challenged a lot of our interviewees up to now with one final bit of wisdom. I'm going to throw that out to you. What's a final bit of wisdom you could share with the listeners today? It's hard to top what you just read. But let's maybe make that in a sentence, in a short burst of an inspirational bit of wisdom for our listeners.
Tony, I would encourage people to never stop the journey, never stop looking. Never stop being inquisitive. I've found the greatest attribute I've had in my life is to just be interested enough to want to know more about the world in which we live, why we're here, the big questions. Why are we here? What am I meant to be doing here? Where to from here? I mean, these questions have dominated my thoughts in most of my life. And I think there's a lot of answers that are hidden in plain sight, if you only want to drive yourself to look and understand. And I would just encourage people to just passionately go after what it is in life that drives them, and to enjoy the journey at the end of the day. It's a beautiful life. Enjoy the journey.
Oh, mate, I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your time for our listeners today. I really appreciate it, mate.
Absolute pleasure, Tony. I've enjoyed it immensely.
Oh, great. All right, for the listeners, have an awesome day. See ya. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Realms of Power. I have such gratitude for your time and energy and the vision to join us with turning your true aligned power on. To take your power up another level, you could share this episode with someone who you think would benefit, or make a comment online that would help us get this information out there. We'd really appreciate your love and support. Hope you have an awesome day. See ya.